Immediately below him is a fellow named Al Banaway. He won 5 national titles. Now what you should know is the greatest champion of all time, because he was great in 1-wall, 3-wall, 4-wall, singles and doubles, often playing the singles and the doubles in the same week, which means in effect playing the quarters and the semis of the singles and the semis of the doubles on one day, and then playing both finals the next day. He won 11 Grand Slams, meaning winning the singles and the doubles in the same week against opponents that ranged from anywhere from 36 players to over 100 players in the tournament. That man is Oscar Obert. He won 42 national championships, and at the age of 35, the young age of 35, when he was still in his prime, he injured himself having played 14 days in a row. He played 7 days in the singles to win it. He played 7 more days in the doubles, and in the finals of the doubles, he went for a shot and his back went into spasm, and from that moment he couldn't play the championship style he played. So what I'm saying is, within 10 years, this man won 42 national championships, which is 4.2 nationals per year. No one has even come close. You'll see a name next to Oscar over there in that little comparison on the far right of the board. You'll see the name Vic. Vic Hershkowitz is one of the all-time greats with 24 national titles. Everybody says, how great was Vic compared to Oscar? Well, as you see on that board, in the national 1-wall singles, Oscar won 9 times, Hershkowitz 7. Oscar won 13 doubles, Hershkowitz 3. In the 3-wall singles, Oscar won twice. Hershkowitz won an unbelievable record 9 times. Oscar, however, won 6 doubles, Hershkowitz 1. And then in the 4-wall, Oscar 5 singles, Hershkowitz 3. Oscar in the doubles, 4-wall 7, Hershkowitz 1. The grand total, Oscar 42, the all-time total which will never be broken, and Vic 24. Oscar with 11 Grand Slams, Vic with 2. Now looking down the board, you'll see Oscar way up on the top there with his 42 national titles. Right. He won the singles in the national 1-wall, 3-wall, 4-wall, all in the same year. His brother Ruby, who's now speaking to you, won 36 national titles. He won the national singles 1-wall in 1954 at the age of 19. He won the national singles open again at the age of 41, 21 and 22 years apart in 1976. Vic Hershkowitz, as I just mentioned, had 24 national titles. He won singles in 1-wall, 3-wall, 4-wall the same year. He and Oscar were the only ones to do that. My third brother, Carl, won 14 national titles, which brings the Obert brother total to 92 national titles, 1-wall, 3-wall, 4-wall, singles, and doubles. Steve Sandler, who's a product of West 5th Street right here, a wonderfully grand champion, won 17 national titles. He won a Grand Slam in 1969 and 1970. He won the singles, which is a record, in 1961, 1971, and 1981. So his national championships are from 1961 to 81, which is 20 years apart. Ruby just got by him with 22 years apart, and that's still the record. Al Torres, another fine and great champion from our own court here, won 6 national titles. He Grand Slammed in 1977. Now, the great champion of today and for the decade of the 80s is Joe Durso. Joe is over 6 feet tall, unbelievable, great shape, does pull-ups, does push-ups. I asked him one time, why are you getting in such great shape, Joe? He told me, how would it look if I get on the court out of shape when a guy like Torres in his 40s is in still great shape? So he's won 6 Grand Slams, 18 national titles. The reason you see his numbers in pencil, because he's going to win many more. If you go to the second column, we go to 4-wall. Nadi Alvarado is a great 4-wall champion. He just completed his 11th national 4-wall singles win, which is a record by itself. He has already many Grand Slams in 4-wall, he has many Grand Slams in 3-wall, but he's never come down to West 5th Street to be challenged by the great Joe Durso, or anyone else. So the question is, will he have the courage to come down here, having won so many 4-wall and 3-wall titles? Will he have the courage, as my brother Oscar did, to go out west, to go to Chicago, to go to San Francisco, and play 4-wall, which he had never played, and still became the great champion 3-wall, 4-wall, and 1-wall? I don't think Alvarado will do that.
Why?
He says he's a professional, he'll only come down for money. He wants about $1,000, and we only raised about $33 for this great Day of Stars, which we have now. The fellow beneath Alvarado's name is the great Joe Platek. He won 10 national titles, 7 straight 4-wall singles. He was a product of the Lakeshore Club in Chicago. He was always in great shape. He'd run up and down the stairs of the club rather than taking the elevators. He played about 6 hours a day, about 6 or 7 days a week, and that's the reason he was a great champion. John Sloan, the man below him, won 16 national titles, 5 Grand Slams. He was one of the great 4-wall players who didn't use power. He just used his skill on the court. And as my brother Oscar won 11 Grand Slams, this great champion, by using as little energy as possible to win the championship, produced 5 Grand Slams. The man beneath him is the great Jim Jacobs. He won 18 national titles. He Grand Slammed in 1960.
He was the
he was also a fight promoter and part manager of the great Mike Tyson. He died recently, and his great record stands. However, he only basically entered the singles. When his singles career was over, he would then only enter the doubles, which really doesn't take him to the pinnacle as my brother Oscar Robert, who was in every conceivable tournament, singles, doubles, 1-wall, 3-wall, 4-wall, for those mere 10 years, where I mentioned before he accumulated 42 national titles and 11 Grand Slams. Fred Lewis was the fellow who followed in Jimmy Jacobs' steps. He went on to win 9 national titles, 6 4-wall and 3 3-wall. Paul Haber followed him with 9 national titles, 5 4-wall and 4 3-wall. He again tried to play in the 1-wall. Jacobs tried to play in the 1-wall. Freddie Lewis was a product originally of 1-wall, but they never rose to the heights of the great Oscar Ober. Now, if you'll pan a little bit below, you'll see all the great shots of the fellow you spoke with before, Bill Fan. He put together all these wonderful action shots. And some of the pictures here, you'll see the committee of 1985, which was our largest tournament with over 105 entries. And the committee is on the left, the winners are on the right.
Is that your daughter?
And my daughter, my wife is in the lower picture here with me, and my daughter Erica is on the far right. Erica won the Supermodel of the World contest in New York with the Eileen Ford agency. There were 2,000 entries, and she was #1.
Wonderful.
So that's a wonderful thing to have, to live with, to know that you have such great children.
Yeah.
Now, as we pan over here to the left, this little board you see with a scratch, which I haven't touched up, right under the name Day of Stars. I created this particular thing 11 years ago. The fellas on the left are the great handball players who have been honored. My brother Oscar is in action there, and my brother Carl is on the right. Yeah. The names on the right are the older fellas that we honored. Right. And the picture in the middle, the color picture, are the first 4 players that we honored in 1980. Jack Harris, who at the time was about 93 years old. Doc Berman, who is today 93 years old and was honored with a birthday party on our other board. Lou Rosenthal and Al Morales. These are the first 4 seniors that we honored. The fellas that follow are those we honored in the ensuing years. On the lower left is Al Torres, I mentioned to you before. On the lower right is Danny Maroney, who this year won the National 1-Wall Doubles Championship with Eric Klarman. He's been a tournament campaigner for about 15 years, always finishing in the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and once in the finals. And the picture in the middle that you see, which says Day of Stars, August 24, 1980, was the original picture taken of the first day we held this event. My brother Carl is on the left. I'm in the next to him. Joe Danilchik, a great champion who we honored, is next to him. My great brother Oscar is right there on the right. Now, every year, I make a proposal to the people who see this picture. I say that there are 4 4 Oberts in that picture. And they say I'm crazy. They just point to my brother, myself, and Oscar, and Joe Danilchik. Well, I want to point to my sister, who happened to be a spectator at that time. So there is indeed 4 Oberts in this picture. Now, if you have a little bit more time on the camera, I promise Pat that we take a little of this backhand. So, all right, Pat, I heard you. I told him to save it just for you guys. Well, I think maybe from this angle again. Okay. No singing. You got that?
Yeah.
Get off, get off.
Take care, okay? Okay, Ken. I'll be seeing you.
Be in touch.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay.
Call me.
Definitely.
How you doing, all right?
How are you doing?
Why are you so hot and wet?
I love you.
I love you too. Recreation, New York City staff. What does that mean?
I work for the Parks Department.
Parks Department. I got a shirt from the Parks Department
All
too.
right.
Someone gave it to me.
So you must be a handball player. Otherwise
Not
you
really.
wouldn't be
I'm
here.
not a handball.
Did you introduce yourself, Morris?
No, of course not.
Please introduce yourself.
We just honored Morris Levitsky for all his many years of service as the AAU chairman of handball, as a referee, as a guy who's always around. He's like a handball historian. And if you ever want to know anything about Morris Levitsky, even if he doesn't know it, he'll make it up.
Yes.
And if you look at the board, we wrote a poem for him.
Yes.
Maybe you'll look at
See
that.
that plaque?
But give him some observations first, Morris. Morris, give him some observations.
This plaque was presented by Ruby Obert, former handball champion, 1 wall, 3 wall, and 4 wall.
Yeah. Now,
Look at the plaque.
He's looked at that.
yeah, I've been looking at
Did
that.
you take a
Morris.
picture of it?
And he took a picture.
Sure, I took a picture of
We'll get back
practically everything. Can I ask you,
How could I get some of those pictures?
how could you get them?
Yeah, the one of the plaque.
You bring
I
a
am
camera
gonna
and you
take a
take a
picture.
picture.
I mean, the
I'm
ones.
taking a picture today.
Oh, that's gorgeous. He answered the
That's
question.
all
easy,
I did.
Morris.
He's not finished with you. Keep
But I
talking.
want to know something. How has the game changed from 20, 30, 40 years ago?
No, don't go to 20, 30. Go to 40, 50.
Okay, how has the game changed from 40 or 50
Am
years
I
ago?
on tape? Are you recording all of this?
Everything you say is going to be held
Oh,
against
okay.
you.
When I was a kid, 13 years of age, in 1931, I watched all the great handball, one-wall players. And since that time, lots of things have happened. They've moved the short line back 1 foot because people had tremendous serves, and the serve was like 90% of the game. They've changed the ball several times. They even went from a black ball to a blue ball.
How do you feel about the blue ball? It's easy
Let me
to
explain
hit.
it to you. And the people are so wacky that when they talk about this ball, they talk about the black ball. They can't say the small blue. They're calling it the black ball or the hard ball. What do I feel about the color of the ball? Is it easy to follow? Yes, but it hasn't got the same type of a bounce that the original black ball had from yesteryear.
It seemed to me that in the black ball you could spin it a lot better and it was a faster game.
Well, I would say that it was true rubber in the old days. I'm calling it old days. And this particular ball they're making now, some of the balls are made in Mexico, and some are made with synthetic rubber. Therefore, the bounce isn't going to be true like it was years ago. The ball is much lighter, and it seems to float. It's much more difficult to control the ball.
Yeah.
That it is.
How about the quality of the games?
I've been players or the games?
Of the players. I've been seeing almost, everybody tries to overwhelm everybody else in the two games.
Have you been watching the big blue or the small blue?
I watched the big blue.
So you're talking about an entirely different story.
Okay.
The big blue elevated from the pink ball that the kids played in the schoolyard.
Right.
50, 60 years ago. It's a game where you don't need a glove.
Right.
You don't need any equipment at all. All you gotta do most of the time is stick your hand out and the ball rebounds off the wall and goes back to the wall like rick-rack, like the kids played with the rubber band hooked onto the ball with the little stick. Now when you play with the small ball, you gotta control the ball. You really gotta have shots. It's an entirely different game. One of the problems we have is I'm not knocking the big blue because a lot of kids play it. It's easy on their hands. In order to play with the small ball, you got to go through several years of hardening the palm of your hand so you don't get a bone bruise that frequent.
Yeah, speaking of that.
Pink ball you can play without a glove, and let me talk.
Yeah.
Not pink ball, the big blue. And the ball gets so wet that many a time when a guy serves the ball, they say, you have to play it over, the ball skipped. And which is true, it has to be that way. The reason for wearing a glove with the small ball is to try to keep the ball dry. When you're playing barehanded on a hot summer day, what are you going to do? Use 10 balls and keep switching them? See, I'm trying to explain the difference between... Now, Ruby Obert, champion several times, played with the black ball. But I don't knock the blue ball. As long as you get kids to play, it's important. It's better to have them play with the big ball, small ball, pink ball, as long as you keep them hanging out with hooligans. That you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Now,
Matter of fact, handball became so important that even in the high schools, they have girls' teams playing against each other and boys' teams playing against each
how
other.
do you feel about that? It was a male game in the old days.
Now, we had girl champions years ago, but they were never good enough to play with the men.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I had to put it that way. It's just like in tennis. A man can't play against a woman. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How do I feel about it?
Yeah.
Let the girls play. Let them play with each other.
Have you played against a girl?
Have I played against a girl? When I played ball, they were good, but as I repeated, not as good as a man.
Is there a different feeling of competition if you're playing against a female?
Yes.
Is there something
Here's a
in your
man
mind?
that adapts himself, Ruby Obert. He's one of the few people that comes around to this park. And if he has to play in a strong game, he plays one way. If he
Yeah, he can
plays
play
with
anyway.
a couple of girls or half-fast players, he adapts the game in such a way where he gives these people a chance and makes a game out of it. In other words, he's not a prima donna. He's not going to say, well, I don't want to get on a court because these people can't hit the ball.
Right.
You have a lot of people that feel that way.
But
he's one of the few people that adapts himself into the game.
How
I
do you
watched him
feel?
play last night with some girl that comes from some borough, Staten Island. She loves to play. He played with her and another two people till 8:15 last night. And normally no one's going to do such a thing.
Right.
Now, what do you want to ask me?
Yeah. How competitive can you really get if it's a girl?
She can be competitive against another girl. That's about it.
That's it.
Just like in tennis.
Right.
How competitive can a girl get in tennis? Can she play against a man?
No,
It's ridiculous.
unless it's Bobby Riggs.
Well, in one of those stupid games, Billie Jean King, so forth and so on.
Right.
Yeah, that's show business.
Right.
That don't mean nothing. He was way past her age, 20 years older. And maybe he let her win. He made some money on the deal, but otherwise, fellow against a girl is ridiculous.
I presume you played at Lincoln Terrace Park. Is that right, Morris?
I know the courts very well. Now, I'm originally from Brighton Beach Private.
Yeah. Oh, you played there?
I played at the Parkway Bats, Brighton Beach Country Club, and I started to play here when they built these courts during the WPA. In other words, under the reign of Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Right.
They started a new system. They started to build all concrete courts because the original courts were all made of wood. And they were very hard.
Out of wood? How did you hit the ball?
Wooden ball, wooden wall.
A wooden wall.
See, but it's a tough job to maintain a wooden wall. You got to use marine plywood. You got to rip out the boards every year because the weather destroys them.
Yeah.
But the concrete, reinforced concrete, seems to hold up, except for the kids that put graffiti on all the walls. If you walk through Greater New York, you'll find that 99% of the parks have graffiti on it, where when people play ball, they can't even follow the ball.
Can I ask you, Morris, had you played with Irwin Shaw? Because he played in Brighton Private.
Irwin Shaw, the writer?
Yeah.
I know him. I knew him, I should say.
Yeah. He played handball at Brighton Private about the same time that you did.
He wasn't that good.
He wasn't that good.
Neither was Hank Greenberg. He played there too.
They also played it. How?
Sid Luckman played there too.
Right. How would you describe their games? How about Irwin Shaw's game?
Irwin Shaw, I'd make him a C player.
Uh-huh.
I didn't want to knock the guy.
Had he had a left hand or what?
Their opposite hands years ago were merely to return the ball. But today, people that play with their opposite hands have natural swings in such a way where they're almost ambidextrous.
I know.
In the old days, no one had that.
So Irwin Shaw was not much of a player.
I wouldn't say that. He was a fair player, a park player, but he never entered tournament competition. He couldn't do that well.
How did you like him as a person?
Wonderful person. I know he wrote The Young Lions and other books like that. He was a great writer.
He didn't seem to have any airs. He was always.
He was one of the fellas.
Yeah.
One of the fellas, of course.
Yeah. So, how about Hank Greenberg and Sid Luckman? How would you
Well,
describe?
Hank Greenberg was a tremendous competitor, powerful guy, but he was, I'd make him a C, not a C, I'd make him a B player, a little bit better than Irwin Shaw.
He was
Sid
a-
Luckman, B player.
Now, Hank Greenberg was a tennis player as well as a bass player.
I believe he was.
So he must have.
You knew
really-
that Hank Greenberg played handball? You knew that?
I didn't know that. This is the first time.
I know it, sure.
I knew Irwin Shaw a little bit. That's why I'm asking you about it. So, and Sid Luckman was also.
He played ball. What school did you graduate from?
Well, I graduated from the University of Michigan, but I took my MA at Brooklyn College. So
What
I
high
know
school did you graduate?
Erasmus,
What year?
54.
How the hell, what do you got to do with Irwin Shaw? Much older than you.
I'm a writer.
That's beautiful.
In fact, he wrote
Do you dot your eyes?
about a piece I did. No. Irwin Shaw.
Why do you dot the J? And the I.
I don't.
You're supposed to.
Irwin Shaw praised a story I did about him. I have the letter from Irwin Shaw. I
Oh,
should
then
give
you
a
shouldn't have
copy.
asked me those questions
I'd like
about
to
it.
make a presentation if you have a little
Please.
more tape.
Sure.
More tape.
I'm going to move back a little with you.
Get on this side, I think.
That's short for that.
This is a video replay of what we did last Saturday. I would say more than 100 people showed up to honor this man for all the great work that he did.
And 100 snorers
And
besides.
because of all the years we spent together, he as a referee and I as a player with my brothers, I finally concluded that he deserved some sort of a memento of his great work. And it's called the Dean of Referees. There's a cadre known to take abuse from every quarter of the court, but their courage is exemplified to preserve our pristine sport. They stand on lines and take brickbats from every sector in view, but manage to uphold the game in a spirit pure blue. Till hell doth freeze, Morris Levitsky will be the dean of referees.
I hope that hell don't freeze too soon. I want to be around a long time.
I think what you want to do maybe is get these guys behind, and we'll take your part. When's the next time that's time to do?
I'm going to give you my card because he's here.
Well, I'm here every day. Is it after 4 good for you?
A lot of days, on Mondays, Thursdays.
Don't give me your card because
Yes,
I'll probably...
yes.
Give me your card.
Yes, I'll take a card.
No cards for you.
I'll take the 3 of spades.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, you'll hear
And what's
from
the
me.
best time to call you?
Wow.
Between 9 and midnight.
Yeah.
And your home phone is on here?
Yeah.
Okay. Just keep in mind that whenever you're in the mood and it's not snowing or raining very hard, I'll be here from during the day
Till
and
hell
from
freezes over.
4 till dark at least. But during the day at 11, at 1, at 3, and so on, because I have to walk. See?
Matthew, do you speak French?
Remember what he said now. If it's not snowing or raining too hard, because you'll be here then too.
Now, where's Bill? Bill, you
Where
got
else has he
Come
got
here,
to go?
Morris. You got to get your picture. Now,
What are you
stand
putting me
over.
with? Please.
You and me. Come here.
Oh, thank you.
Now you'll look.
Tell us, Morris, how do you rate the Alexander brothers?
Very interesting story. They won the
1, 2.
AAU National Championship in 1936. Morty Alexander was 16 and a half years of age. He's the youngest champion ever. Cy Seymour, his brother, was 11 years older. In my opinion, at that time, they were 2 of the greatest handball players I've ever seen.
How about Solly Goldman?
Solly Goldman was known as a hustler. He played in money games only. And he liked to play against 2 people. He'd take the national champions and play them both. And he carried on a lot, you know, but he was
Carry on, how so?
always involved in money and showmanship, and say he liked to belittle his opponents and say, yeah, 2 champions, I can play them both and beat them. Well, Solly Goldman passed away in the last year. In my opinion, although people don't know about it, he's rated as the #1 handball player, one-wall handball player of all time.
That's right. Exactly right. Okay.
Who told you to ask me these questions? This guy?
This guy.
That has to do with one-wall handball, something that people don't know about. In the old days, national champions were high school graduates between 18 and 19 years of age. When a guy reached the age of 24, he went out to work. He was finished. Today, we have people at the age of 33, 34, and 35 that are top one-wall players. What does that mean to you?
It means that all the players that were between 18 and 24 never got to their peak.
It's not true. In the old days, they did get to their peak. From 16 to 18.
That was
Believe it
their
or not,
peak.
they were at their peak.
Uh-huh.
And they were, like Morty, I told you, at 18, he was unbeatable. 16 and a half, a national champion. The average champion was between 22 and 23 years of age. After that, he couldn't hang around the park anymore. He had to go to work. In other words, the young kids were all hobos, played nothing but handball.
So now you're saying that everybody here is part of the homeless? They all have no jobs? It's all a bunch of bums?
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying it the other way around. That the young kids here are playing with the big blue,
Yeah,
the playground game.
right.
That's disorganized. They actually play without rules.
Uh-huh.
Whatever park you go into, they
a
make up
different
their
rule.
own rules.
Yeah.
Whereas with the small ball, we have a set of rules that we try to play by. So what am I trying to bring out is, there are no new players coming into the field. Maybe 1 or 2. Therefore, we got to rely on the old timers to be the national champions. But I'm talking